Alrighty. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ben Strong, and I'm Director of Product Management for Roku. Happy to be here today to talk about some of our publishing tools, one in particular for onboarding content onto the Roku platform. By show of hands, how many have either used a Roku or own a Roku device? It's a lot of people. Has anybody published an SDK app to our platform? One. All right. Easy? Hard?
Yeah, it's all right.
It's all right. How long did it take you?
2 months, 2.5 months.
Yeah, so investment in time, right? Investment in money. Okay. Today I want to talk about one of our newer publishing tools. It was introduced last October, actually at Streaming Media West, called the Roku Direct Publisher Program. And it's a significantly easier way to onboard your content onto a Roku device. I think we all know, we're all here, we all assume that over time all content will be streamed. Vast majorities of it are now. More and more will become streamed in the future. And Roku truly believes in this, and we've built a purpose-driven OS that really powers all the Roku devices to power TVs and to power streaming across those devices. Just a little background first before I get into Direct Publisher. I want to kind of set the scene a little bit for Roku, the devices, and kind of our presence and our leadership position in the market. A lot of people think about Roku and are really familiar with our players, our little set-top boxes. Those were our first devices. They've been around since maybe 2008 or so. We also have sticks. We've introduced this year the Roku Express, which is a $29.99 player, which was a great introductory product for new streaming users. It actually is either the only or one of the only that has RCA jacks in it, so for folks that don't have HDMI outputs. And it really actually has become one of our biggest sellers and really has introduced us to a new part of the market for people that are just onboarding and getting comfortable with streaming. We also have Roku-powered devices, mostly internationally with MVPDs and traditional cable operators, where we have devices that stream as well as have over-the-air HD tuners in them as well. So these are the likes of Telstra and Sky and PLDT in the Philippines that are needing to introduce new ways, sometimes the only way for their users to access content. And then we have our smart TVs, which were introduced 2 years ago, all the way from a little 24-inch HD TV up through a 65-inch 4K ultra high-definition TV. Those have really become popular models as well. These are all powered by the Roku OS system. When you onboard an app or a channel to Roku, it is a consistent experience across all of these devices. Just to give a little bit of perspective on where we are, almost half of the streaming share among active streaming players belongs to Roku right now. It's big, right? We have an incredibly engaged audience, and we have an audience that not only buys their devices, but they use them, and they use them quite a bit. And you'll see that we're 2x and 3x over the likes of Amazon TV, Apple, and Chromecast. And part of it is what we do. We have built a dedicated OS and dedicated devices for streaming video with high quality and with a great user experience. We introduced, as I mentioned, 2 years ago, we introduced Roku TV for the first time, powered by Roku OS. And this year, so over those 2 years, we've gained about 13% market share. It's a little higher now. And this year, we'll have about 150 models in the market through 7 relationships with manufacturers and brands. And these are available on Amazon. These are available with a lot of shelf space in Best Buy through the Element brand, through I think it's the Insignia brand at Walmart. And so we have a lot of distribution, really popular, and a lot of great relationships with a lot of the box stores plus online. And in terms of streaming hours, we by far have the largest or the strongest engagement amongst other streaming devices. So you'll see that we're nearly 50% higher than the likes of Samsung, 3x that of Google and Apple. This is 93 million streaming hours a week. I think this was taken in Q3. And we've grown significantly since then. So if we look at streaming on the Roku platform, as we headed out of 2016, we had about 14.5 million active accounts, meaning users that have streamed on their Roku device within the last 30 days. So again, these are a lot of folks that are streaming and streaming constantly. And this year, every month, and it's growing, we've had over 1 billion hours of streaming hours per month to date for this year. So the Roku OS, again, purpose-built for the TV. A little quote from Wirecutter: "The widest selection of content, the best search, the best interface, and the best user experience." We have dialed in on making this a great user experience. Whether it be through our unbiased search, we're not creating or selling content that's competing with our app partners. My feed helps you follow shows, people, et cetera, get alerts for content that's coming on board. On our TVs, the ability to do things like live pause. Mobile private listening is a really nice one. So whether it's through a Roku remote on some of our higher end models, or through your mobile app, it's a companion app for kind of content discovery, and you can use it as a remote control, but you can plug in your headphones and the sound will be muted and you can hear your content through that. So the late night in bed, not wanting to wake up the spouse or whatnot, it's a nice little feature. And then support for 4K content on our sticks and players in the higher end models. And for content creators, so a lot of great stuff for the user, and really it's good for the content creators because we are content neutral. We're not competing. Again, we're not competing against other content creators. And then we focus on streaming. We want a great streaming experience, and our unbiased search is really the best way for the users to control what they want and for us to make sure that we're giving the experience to the user that they desire. And no surprise, but free content is really popular. So, but it's more popular than you might think. So a lot of people come in and really want an SVOD or a TVOD because they think that's the way to grow. But the #1 question that a Roku user asks when they buy a device is, what can I get for free? And when they see that there's a massive amount of free content and a massive amount of channels offering free content, that puts them over the edge for a Roku device. And so we're seeing a huge growth, really a hockey stick in terms of consumption of free content. 78% year over year in terms of free content consumption so far this year over last year. And so with that, we've developed a, yeah.
So you have NBC News and CBS News. What feed is that? Is that a local?
So
regional, is it
usually those.
linear?
It depends on the content provider. Some of them are really sophisticated, and they're going to deliver something based on your through like a TV everywhere type of authentication, and we understand what channels you're authenticated for, and you're going to get that. Other, it might be a national feed, and others, it's just little VOD clips that are more kind of general interest. Yeah. So we've got, we've developed a great program called the Roku Direct Publisher Program, which helps onboard an advertising-driven free content experience in a really low-cost way. We want to deliver this great content, and we want to do it without you having to build an app. So you did it. It took 2 months, right? This is like days, right? So, and so it's called the Roku Direct Publisher. It's been live since October, and it's a full-featured Roku channel, no coding, no cost. In terms of no Bright Script or Roku Scene Graph or SDK coding. There's some coding around the feed, and we have some ways to help you with that. But there's no app coding, et cetera. We handle all of that on our back end. We have a great UX for long form, for short form, for episodic content, so we can handle kind of a bevy of content types. There's customization for you as the publisher. What do you want to call the row? What content do you want in each row? How do you want to order it in each row? How many rows do you want? What's the layout? All these kinds of things are things that you can manage through a web interface, and it's all based on your feed. And then accessibility features right out of the box. So closed captioning capabilities, speech to text for visually impaired. It's pretty wild. I've gone through some of this training, and we've made sure that our apps are really capable in this front. To watch somebody that's visually impaired try to access is tough, and so there's some great speech to text to help them understand, here's what's on the screen, here's how many lists there are, here's what the list name is, here's how many items are in the list, here's what I'm seeing, and then once they play, then off to the races. So it really helps them find and consume their content. And some of the benefits are you automatically get included in Roku Search. So with an SDK app, that was a separate endeavor altogether. It's another feed, it's another approval process. But with Roku Direct Publisher, it's all one and the same. When that feed comes in, that channel gets created, that channel gets published, that content gets into Roku Search. And that content is all available for us to do search and, or discovery and curation types of curation and discovery. And so in this, I mean, as we move towards delivering kind of more custom content for each user, as we have experiences where we can curate, top films of the 80s and whatever it might be, all this is available for us to go ahead and deliver in and then deep link into these Roku Direct Publisher apps from kind of a home screen experience. What's great about this too is since you didn't build the app, you don't have to maintain the app, because all you're maintaining is the content, right? You can, as we develop capabilities within the app, you're along for the ride. Those capabilities are then available for you at any time once they're released. So whether it's an automatic update or it's you being able to go into the web interface and saying, oh, I want to take advantage of that now, click, publish. And since you've already been certified and you've already been published, there's no other certification process. It's just, that's in the app now, and that's how the users are going to experience your app from that point forward. We monetize through ads. I'll get into that a little bit. And it's available through all devices, whether it's a stick, whether it's a player, whether it's a TV, it's that same experience through all of those devices. So I want to get into some quick imagery for within a channel. These are a little bit plain Jane. I want to make sure it's well understood that things like background images, totally under your control. Highlight when we see things like the loading bar and the focus rectangle over a piece of content. All that is like customizable. You can say what color it is. You can, it's your own logo. You've got a splash screen. You've got a channel poster. You've got something for search. You've got your logo. You've got backgrounds. All these things are totally customizable for you to bring into your channel. This is a movies detail page. Again, everything is driven by the content in the feed. So the box art. If let's say I had started this and didn't finish it, if I come back, I'll have a resume play button there. The description, all the metadata around the genre, the length, the cast and crew, if it were included, would be included here as well. So it's really up to you. As rich as your content is, the app will present it to the user. We have supports for episodes. So episodes are really important. Instead of having them take up a lot of space within search or whatever, let's say you have 10 seasons of something, 200 episodes, and you don't really want to take up like search results and whatnot with every single episode. And so we roll it up right into the classic, into seasons and into series. And all of this is defined by kind of simple parameters in the feed. And then the UI handles all of it. So it understands when I click on, this one is called Welcome to the Stage. And when I click on Welcome to the Stage as a series title, I go into this episode picker and I can navigate by season and then pick my episode. Full feature, what you would expect out of a streaming experience comes along for the ride here, are included. Bookmarking, meaning if I want to resume from where I stopped and play from the beginning, I can navigate back into other episodes, et cetera. So we don't want any dead ends here. We want to make sure that the user can navigate through, can start where they stopped, and find the next and discover the next episode. Things like for short form content, again, like I mentioned before, we handle long form, we handle episodes, we handle short form. All of those have slightly different kind of user interactions, right? When we have a short form video, one of our partners is Mashable. Users are usually going to consume kind of 2 minutes here, another 4 minutes, another 3 minutes of content. Their consumption behavior is a little bit different on a movie that's an hour and a half long. So when we're talking about short form, well, once it's over, I can play it again, or I'm going to then jump onto the next video in the playlist, and we're going to automatically, you as the publisher can control what you want that playlist to look like and what you want that user to see next. And then, this one came out a little bit dark, but trick play. Trick play is when I'm fast forwarding and I'm rewinding and those little still images come up which help me navigate to that point that I want to get to. That's also supported in the app as well. So some really high-end capabilities that really come out of the box for you. And it's really up to you in terms of kind of how rich you want that feed to be. Closed captions, again, accessibility. So have the ability to have closed captioning on. You'll see a representative if it, right here, you can have it on. It can be a system setting where you always want closed captions. It can be just on for this piece of content. We also have a feature where if you're listening and you hear that whisper and you can't really tell what that person just said, you're like, God darn it. And so I want to go back and I still can't hear it and I don't want to turn the volume up. Well, I can go back 10 seconds and for 10 seconds the captions will come up and then you can say, okay, got it. And then they'll disappear and then on I go with the rest of my content. And then we monetize, right? We have a very advanced monetization system called the Roku Audience Network. We have targeting through a partnership with Nielsen, and which helps really optimize for the user, for the content, optimize on the CPMs, and then so what we do is we support pre and mid-roll ad insertion for all content. And we have what's nice is we have a kind of a global ad policy. So we'll try to maximize the ads that are delivered without impacting the user experience. So if a publisher came in and said, I want a mid-roll ad every 2 minutes on an hour and 5 minute piece of content, well, that's not going to happen. It's going to those ones that are too frequent are going to get ignored, and then as soon as the next one is available, then we'll fire off that mid-roll ad. And then pre-rolls, we can adjust kind of like what the podding looks like leading into every piece of content. And again, with content discovery, automatically into Roku Search, we have this really great companion mobile app that helps you find, discover content, and then interacts with your device. So if I find it and I click it, then it'll send a signal to your device and it'll play that content on TV. And we talked about the mobile listening as well as a capability. With that, so as a publisher, once you have an app on the platform, you want to know how it's performing. So we have a dashboard or analytics dashboard that's available. You'll include channel analytics, so how many installs and how many uninstalls and average daily viewers and things like that. And then you can get into actually viewership metrics, which help you understand what pieces of content are actually performing. And it's all available by, there's a few metrics there and you can stack them up and look at different time frames and whatnot. So it's a nice view, so then you can optimize your content to make sure that you're delivering what your users are desiring. We launched in October. We have actually well over 300 direct publisher channels now. We've got some nice brands on the platform, the likes of Vice and Mashable and Cosmopolitan Magazine, and we have Esquire and some other Hearst Communications channels up there. Really performing well. Babel Music is a great one. They have some really high quality music content that people seem to enjoy. And so it's really been taking off. We're seeing really, really great growth, especially the last couple months here. And to help you out, we've got a few partners that are well integrated. So you may host your content yourself, and that's great, and all you need is a feed. Well, we got a couple feed-oriented partners that will develop to our spec, and then it's an easy onboarding. Or if you're with the likes of a full-featured OVP like Brightcove or Oyala or Kaltura or JW, we have some really nice integrations. So based on the content that you have hosted by them and in their CMS, you can really easily select some subset or all of your content and create a direct publisher feed for that. And then once you have the feed, what I'm going to go through really quickly is kind of show you the web interface for how easy it is to then create your channel based on your feed being created. So we'll go into here and we'll see. I've got about I don't know 5 or 6 of these, but simple web interface. In general, when you start off, you say what channel store do you want it in? Meaning what country do you want these available? What language is it? Is it child directed or not? That helps us and understand what kind of ad policy we need to put around the what kind of ad policy we need to put around the channel. And then when you get to the feed URL, it's pretty simple. You put in your feed URL, what format the videos are being streamed at. We then do a quick validation. This takes just a number of minutes. We come in and say, great, we've got a whole bunch of stuff that's been successfully ingested. And it's OK if you've got a piece of content that failed. We'll warn you. And then if you publish your channel with a failed piece of content, we'll just skip it, right? As long as you have content in there that's valid and viable, your channel will still live. You don't have to have a perfect feed, to have your channel live. And so once you have your feed kind of validated, as part of the initial setup, you can define your channel layout. So we have kind of this is a little small, sorry, but we have kind of two design layouts. One is standard, where kind of all the rows are the same size tile. As you see, you can get about 3.5 of them in any given row. And then we have what's called the hero row. So whatever you say is your first row will automatically get this kind of big featured feel with an elevated UI. And that's more of, kind of your primary, content that you want to really drive to. A lot of people like this one, and we have some new things in the works that are will elevate it a little bit more. I'm sorry, along with our layout, and I didn't have this in here, is a pretty easy selection. There's about 5 assets that you need to upload, that are kind of specific size. So a splash image, a channel logo, a search logo, things like that. That's part of the process, and where you select kind of, your accent colors and things like that. And that's one of the screens which I unfortunately had omitted here. When you set up the category, so once your feed's in, then you have the ability to kind of set up, like, this is what you define, like what your rows or what your categories look like. And so you have the ability to kind of mark off, there's some what we call default rows, so you can include something that says is the most popular, and we have an algorithm to kind of deliver what the, the most watched content is for that user. Well, that's an automatically generated row. You can do recently added, so kind of the newest stuff is automatically in that row. You can do a continued watching row. Once the channel is published, you can do a continued watching row, which the last thing that somebody didn't complete will be in a row as well. And then here, when I'm configuring my channel, all I have to do here is I've got this idea of like, all right, cool, I want a concerts row, so I'm going to name it concerts. I'm going to base it on my tag. My tag is in my feed. Every piece of content will have a tag, and so you can say, oh, this is a concert, or this is an interview, or this is, if it's a movie, this is a a horror or a comedy or whatever you want to do. Your tags can be anything you want. And so in here, we're going to assume that there's some number of items that are tagged with concerts. And so when we come up here, we're going to say, if I were to say select tags and I start typing, we're going to read, we'll understand all the tags that have been included in the feed. And you say, cool, I want the one from concerts. And if you want to include interviews as well, fine, include interviews. I can choose how I want it sorted, and then you have a row, and I can create another row and another row and another row, however many you want, to round out the channel. And then we get to monetization. So right here, you can decide not to monetize, but it's probably a better idea if you do monetize. And so when you say, yeah, I want to monetize with ads, you have two options. You can kind of deliver through your own ad server if you have one. But you could also, oops, sorry about that. You can also have all the delivery handled by Roku through the Roku Audience Network, which I'd recommend. It's very optimized, it's very mature, and I think it would net out more revenue, generally speaking. These are 2 different models. If you serve your own, it's a inventory share model where you would get, I think you get 70% of your inventory, and Roku will fill in the other 30%, and each of us retain 100% of our revenue. And if you go through the Roku Audience Network, we sell and deliver 100% of the revenue, and we do a 60-40 ad split on top of that for the revenue share. We also do some additional targeting, so you'll see there's a default Nielsen genre, and so through our ad targeting with Nielsen, we kind of define that channel so we can, right off the bat, do some more targeting as to optimize the revenue. From there, you can say, okay, cool, I'm gonna preview now. And so you get like kind of a representative. It's like not totally representative, but you get a pretty good representation of what the channel looks like. You'll see here's that concert row that we created. So yeah, that looks good in my interviews, and I can look at a couple different screens, and I feel like I'm good to go. And so then I get to this preview and publish, and it's like, awesome. What you want to see is all those purple checks and no red X's or warning signs or anything like that. And once you're ready to rock, then you publish. We're on unlike the SDK channels, this is kind of a accelerated certification and approval process. Usually within a week, you're in the channel store and you're done. And then any updates you make from that point on doesn't require another certification. It's just part of your maintenance of your channel. So in summary, it's a really streamlined way to create a channel. It's a really low-cost way. It does not cost anything to get onto the network. You're not paying us anything. You can go on right now. You can start to deliver. You can start to play and create a kind of a private, unpublished channel right now and choose to publish it whenever you're ready. It really does have a significant cost savings. As the gentleman here said, it took about 2 months for the SDK. Here is develop the feed, and you start to go. You get into Roku Search. You get into all of our content and discovery curation experiences. You get your analytics on the end, and you're able to make money through the Roku Audience Network or through your own advertising server. So that's it. You can go to developer.roku.com. Very easy. Sign up for an account if you don't have one. Fire up a direct publisher channel, and off to the races you go. Thank you very much. Any questions? Yeah.
Who do you see as your primary audience? Is this the small video businesses, or is this the soccer games and weddings, or all the above?
No, we see a range, right? So we're seeing bigger media partners coming on that have an AVOD-driven business that they may no longer want to, they're maintaining apps across many devices, and they want to lower their development costs, and this is a really great way to do it. And so we're seeing large, I think a growing in prominence kind of brands that are onboarding here, and a lot more in the pipeline. And then we do see a lot of smaller publishers that maybe for the same reasons, but don't have the wherewithal to create an SDK app, but find this, understand that the Roku platform is a really viable platform with lots of eyeballs, lots of engagement, and can onboard that way. So yeah, we do see a spectrum.
Okay, when you publish the app, you're not hosting any of the actual content.
We're not.
You're just passing out the path to find it.
That's right. The feed that's part of that validation process is when we validate, we make sure that all the content that the publishers put in is accessible, the images are accessible, we understand that it's playable on our platform, we understand the codec and things like that, and that's part of that validation process. And then yeah, it's up to them to deliver on that. Yeah. Right there?
For a public broadcaster where you have no ad revenue and monetizing is not the issue, just reaching a wide audience is all possible.
Mm-hmm.
I could see from the setup screen there was a no monetized option.
Mm-hmm.
And from our perspective, how do you make money off of us?
We don't in that case, and that's okay. Like there is to an extent, right? And so we actually don't. We know that people do come on, and when they consume some set of content, they will also consume other sets of content. So if we do our job and turn people on to recommendations and things like that, and they can discover other content, then we'll make money on that. And so sometimes it's a way in, and that's fine.
So there is no reason not for us to use it?
No, none. Come on board. In the back? Yeah. So I don't have a great date. We are looking at other monetization options, and it'll come to the platform. I don't have a great date, but SVOD subscription and subscription for sure. TVOD, I'm less sure what that one will look like, but the subscription will come in time for sure. Sorry, that.
So people have existing apps, are they migrating away from?
Some are. Yeah, some are. We're finding some that are ready for a rev in their other app. We're actually retiring kind of our original SDK program at this point. And then so some of those people are saying, well, this is better than what I had already, and so I'm just going to onboard here instead of redeveloping a new app on the new technology. This is something that's been around for like 5 or 6 years, and so the old SDK, and so some of those people are migrating over. Yeah, right here.
So if I have content on a JW player,
Mm-hmm.
Does it just automatically update whatever I have in my cloud account? Does that automatically go up?
Yeah, you have a way of controlling kind of what you want to go into the direct publisher feed. But yeah, so as you do that, and I forget exactly how it's implemented in the JW interface, but you're able to identify which content you want in the Roku feed, and then things like categories and the tags and all that are all kind of part of that content management system and injected into the feed. But yeah, it's a subset or the whole set of what you want from there. Yep. And then I saw one way back there.
Yeah, and then I may have a few more questions for you after the
Sure.
thing. But, so I played around with this a little bit. So it helps to have a CMS where you can help sort of make your items and have an XSL where you can transform that a little bit to make it sort of more friendly for the Roku. A couple of things. I had trouble trying to make a live and an MP4 based playlist at the same time. Also, I would provide multiple media items. It says
Yeah.
It seems to just take whatever the first media URL is first. Maybe you could do an SMIL or kind of make them HLS-ish. I can go over some.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. We definitely support and have apps or channels that have live feed, which may be coming in through HLS, and then VOD, which may be coming in through some other encode. And
Match that stuff.
okay,
I guess that's fine.
yeah.
And the other thing was so you were showing episodic content. It seemed when I played with it, it was okay, so you have your topics or your different genres maybe, but it didn't seem like you could get more levels beneath. So I wasn't sure if what you were showing there with the episodic content was that easy publishing method or through the SDK.
It's actually through the feed. It's through the feed, so there's an object called series, and there's an object called episode, and there's an object called season. And so when you have, season 1 as its object with, the series name, season 1 is the object, and then the episodes which are associated within that object. And then it's a hierarchy like that. So I've been ignoring this side of the room. Yes, the SDK fella.
With the new system, how is it managed now? You mentioned that obviously we manage the feed. Is it an XML-based system?
Yeah.
Or it is?
Yeah, so we have two. It's a JSON XML, and then there's actually for short form we support MRSS, but the JSON XML is far more, a lot more capabilities in it. The MRSS is really only for short form, and it doesn't have as rich a metadata and whatnot, so I always recommend going, even if it's just short form, going with that JSON XML. Yeah.
Are there hooks for our own metric solutions?
We don't yet, but we do plan on supporting various third-party analytics integrated inside. So there would be, an API that you would be able to authenticate through, and then whether it be Adobe or whatever they might be. So I don't have a great timeline on it, but it's absolutely a capability that we'll build out. Yeah. Yeah.
What are the ad serving schedules like? Can you say just I want an ad only at the beginning and then I want?
You can, yeah. So it's there's the pre-roll, right? So that's the beginning, and again we have this kind of what we call an ad policy. So an ad will be eligible every so many minutes of watching. And so if I've gone through, some piece of content or even a couple short forms, and okay, now I've consumed enough content, that next piece of content will get an ad pod in the beginning. And we limit that, we try to limit to about 30-second ad pod pre-roll, and then depending on the content, a minute and a half or 2-minute mid-roll. And then so the mid-roll, there's an object called an ad break in there. And so you define the ad break with a timestamp, and that is the timestamp from the beginning of that piece of content. So you can manage the more optimal ways. You can put arbitrary times if you want. It's a poorer experience. It's best to know kind of what the optimal times are, and you can put those into the second. Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah.
Again, on the ad serving, what kind of rates are you guys seeing currently? And then secondly, are there certain types of ad content that we could embargo, if you will?
Oh, in terms of competitive.
Well, we just, just in terms of certain content, certain classes of content. Like we might say no liquor, or we may say.
Gotcha. Yeah. So we don't have a ton of controls around that yet. However, on our network, there's not a lot of that currently. And then rates, I would only be misspeaking if I told you what they were right now. So I shouldn't say anything, but they are competitive and they are pretty well optimized. Folks are happy with the return that they're getting. Yes?
Since you're the front end, as you see more channels come on, are they scaling up to meet demand?
Yeah, we haven't seen too big of an issue at this point. I think it's something that we have to watch out for, and we'll be starting to more closely monitor quality and capacity for those publishing partners. So far, we're aware. We're keeping an eye on it, but we haven't seen an issue yet.
I have one other question just about content. I have a Roku. Admittedly, I don't use it as much as I do some other devices, so forgive me for my lack of comprehension of the catalog right now. Are there areas that, as a company, you feel there isn't enough of? So there's a demand for it more than others just because there's not as much of it?
The catalog is so broad. It's really amazing. I mean, we've seen, surprising to me, on a very small scale, we saw this kind of explosion of kind of like church-oriented, like specific church-oriented channels. There's lots of that. There are a lot of kind of classic movies coming on board. There's people streaming live content from international sources that where kind of the rights are significantly different, and they're able to do that. So it's a really broad, really broad set of content. I wouldn't say that we need more than anything else or are lacking in any place, but the diversification is pretty extraordinary.
And do you feel there's a lot of low budget? Like, I mean, I'd say lower budget, like they're not like as slickly polished.
Yeah, there's some with lower production value for sure, and there's others where it's highly polished. So we run the gamut.
Would you see a lot of fishing shows or no?
I'm not sure. You're going to have to hit your Roku and see if you have any fishing channels.
Outside the U.S., top 5 countries or regions where you're getting pickup?
UK is big. It's Europe, UK, Italy, France. But yeah, but we have relationships in the Philippines that we're going to see pick up pretty aggressively here, and we have a new partnership in Africa as well.
In Africa? Mm-hmm. Can you tell me who that's with?
No. I can't remember the name.
Okay, so it's not a secret. It's just,
No, I think it's been announced. Yeah, I can't remember the name right now.
With your closed captioning, are you planning on doing anything like YouTube does, where you give them English closed caption and they convert it together?
Haven't thought of that. No, we represent it in the file that we get. We can have multiple, and the system will understand what the default setting for the system is, and then so to deliver that language closed captioning if it's available. Similarly, if there's an alternate audio track in the mezzanine file that's delivered, to pick up on that and to be able to deliver the actual audio file with an alternate language as well. But no translation yet. Yeah.
How does search work?
Sorry?
How does the search work? Are you added to the search even if the app is not installed? Do you need to install this?
No, you do not need to install the app. Yeah.
So, and the full catalog is available in search?
Yes. Yes. Let's see. Go right here in front.
Do you have any customers doing SSAI where they're doing server-side beaconing, and how does that, and server-side impression, and how does that work on the monetization side?
It's usually a relationship that we'll need to talk about, like as it's not part of the standalone or the kind of click through here. So you'll have a conversation with the business development folks, and there are folks that do that. Yeah. Yeah. Did you have a question? No? Okay. Yeah.
The tags that you were talking about earlier, is that a one-to-many relationship?
Yeah. Yeah. Each piece of content can have as many tags as you want, and then you derive those rows based on whatever combination of tags that you want to drive that content. Any other questions? One more? All right.
Once you sign up, like if you want to make your own
Mm-hmm.
with the SDK later, does it preclude you from like?
It does not. You can actually convert it to an SDK if you want. Yeah. You can convert it to an SDK channel. It's just two different paths. So you still have to have your own, like with the direct publisher, we manage the package, right? We manage the configuration, the package, everything for that channel on the back end. If you say, oh, I want this thing to now power an SDK channel, then we can take you out of the direct publisher flow, and then you'll have to upload your own package that relates to the feed and go with it that way. Yeah. Yes?
Does Roku have an online platform separate from the OS?
Oh, in terms of like viewing on the web?
Yeah.
Not yet.
Okay.
I have a question in regards to, along the lines of the ads. Now, I see a little bit of a promotion for internal, check this channel out and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a way, and this maybe also gets into a little bit about the question of what's allowed as far as advertising on my channel versus somebody else, but is there a way to say, oh, I know people like, say, fishing. I want to advertise on this fishing channel about our fishing program. That kind of stuff. Do you guys?
Oh, like direct sale to a channel? No. No, not right now.
But you do run ads about
It's highly targeted, yeah, where we start to understand that user's interests. We understand targeted ads to that channel based on the content to make sure that they're associated as well. When an advertiser is trying to target a certain genre, subject matter, et cetera, that's built into the system. Okay? Well, thanks very much. It was a pleasure talking to you, and take care.